Hey, just doing a quick status update of my 1928 Dodge four-door sedan project. Started this a little over a year ago, and in fact my first drive was about a year ago, and I've made some progress since then. It still looks about the same. Haven't done any paint or body work or anything like that. I mean, I'm pretty much gonna leave the body as it is. It's a pretty original car, and I'm gonna leave the body work. Probably at some point I'm gonna paint it, but not there yet. Still the same engine. It's a Lola Isuzu 4-cylinder. Um, I'm a little disappointed at the power that this thing has. It's 55 horsepower. Pretty much maxing out at about 60 miles an hour. So I'm thinking of putting a bigger engine in it, but I haven't quite figured out what's gonna fit well with the car. Might just go with like a international engine or something like that. Kind of want to stick with the diesel. Did do a fair bit of work on it. I think last time I drove it, I just had like one headlight hooked up, but no wiring or anything. Just like straight to the battery, and you can plug it in and unplug it. So I got the headlights hooked up. I got a radiator. The radiator was leaking, so I was actually able to do some TIG welding on the bottom. Doesn't look real hot, but it actually does seal, and probably a little bit of paint makes it look better. I got real 1928 Texas license plates, so that's nice, and I actually got it registered with that, so it's got a real registration. I got my stickers for it, and what else did I do? Put a Auga horn on it, so it has the authentic. Let's see if I can sound the horn here. It's pretty loud, and did a lot of work on the steering actually. Let's see if that's the brake system here, and yeah, you can't quite see it real well from the angle. Let me get it from the front. There you go. It's clamped onto the front axle, so this actually gives like sideways support for the front axle, so that way it doesn't sway when there's quite a bit of play in at least as far as steering is concerned, the axle can move sideways, which affects the steering a lot. So there's about a quarter turn difference between driving on the left side of the road or the right side of the road. I also lifted up the suspension a little bit. I got this I made a custom hangers that gives it a couple of inches of more clearance. I think it looks better, just having more original height for the car. I think actually it might be a little bit higher now. You can see it here really well actually. There you go. And I put shocks on. The shocks were a big improvement. It was pretty wobbly without the shocks. I did that on both sides. I pretty much just built that from old trailer parts. The only thing new on it is the bolts and the shocks themselves and the bushings. But everything else just came out of the scrap metal bin. I was able to reuse all that. I got the glow plug system. I actually modified this here, this Ford glow plug system, and you can see I cut the tab on the current sensor, so that way it's right for a 4-cylinder engine. And I put this kind of cheesy cold air intake on it for now, so at least I don't have the giant tower, the real big air cleaner on it that I had before. And the engine's pretty much still the same as before otherwise. I think you've seen all that. Those are the S10 brakes. I already had the brake system done last year. I haven't really touched it since last time I drove it. And I think the brake system's actually working really well. I'm very pleased with how it worked out. Here's the interior, pretty much still the same. I have the seat is pretty reasonable, but I think it's collapsed a little bit. It's too low. You just sit too low in the car. Oh yeah, I added like turn signals. That's new. So I actually have like a just like a semi-truck type of turn signal. and I got the lights, and I have everything with relays, you know, so the turn signals and the lights and the brake lights and everything work. There's quite a bit of wiring that goes into all that, and you can see underneath the dash, you know, still got to tie it all up. I just want to run it for a while and make sure it actually works. That's like one of the relays that I use, I think, for the brake system. So I actually made like a wiring diagram, so 10 years from now I'll be able to figure out what the hell I did. And let's see, I got the springs re-arched. They were totally collapsed earlier. I mean, they're flat and they're actually too long for the car. So the shackles are just totally backwards. I mean, the spring was basically, you know, straight up against here, and it was, you know, it would eventually break something or whatever, because the spring basically had no room to actually move. But they had to arch them pretty steep, and, you know, ideally I think what I should have done is keep the springs the same, but just make them shorter, because I think now the back end, it's pretty high for my likings. And this is the gas tank. It is pretty rusty, and so I cleaned it all out and painted it inside out, and, you know, used a gas tank sealer, but it still leaked a little bit. So I mean, it actually was so thin in some places. I'd already welded up some parts of it, and then it still tore part of it. So I used some of that putty, like, gas tank sealer stuff on it. You can buy it off of various online retailers, and yeah, I don't expect it to last real long, but it's lasted so far, a couple of months, you know. And I moved my brake lines around a little bit to, you know, basically moved it up a couple inches to, otherwise the brake line would have been too short, you know, in case the axle moves all the way down. And added shocks. That was a big improvement as well. It already came with these, the axle already came with these shock mounts. So I basically just went off of that, and then they made another shock mount at the top here. That's one of the straps that the gas tank mounts with. I don't know if you can see that up here, it's pretty dark, but basically that bolt, you just turn it, and that's what's tightened this steel strap to hold on the gas tank. So I think the pressure from the strap is what made it, you know, break a little bit. And I have this tank has a electric fuel pump in it. You can kind of see it through the hole there. Yeah, you can't really see it. Anyway, it's got an electric fuel pump with the return line, so that way when I turn on the ignition, it'll prime the engine automatically. You don't have to use a primer pump or anything, in case you run low on fuel or whatever, or have a small leak. It's got 2 gas caps. I think originally the car had like a gas gauge here, but somebody put a cap in it, and so I just went with that. It's actually kind of neat to be able to fill the car from any direction, and yeah, those the stoplights are pretty neat. They're meant for like a Model T or a Model A. They got the stop in them. I think they look, I mean, they pretty much look right with any of these cars of this style. So that's about it. I think the steering works well. I've actually been able to take the car up to about 60 miles an hour now, and, you know, previously after about 40 it would start to sway and just feel unstable, and now I can actually take it up to 60 miles an hour, and it will actually go down the road straight. At least if you go on a straight road, then you can just let go of the steering wheel and it'll go down just fine. But it's still pretty sensitive to like ruts and things in the road, so I think the next step is to add a steering stabilizer. I got the ignition here. You can hear the click where I got the 12 volt glow plug system instead of the 6 volt on this one, so initially the 6 volts kept burning out, and then So I put in the 12 volts from a what do you call it, Thermo King or whatever, that makes the freezer. So there you go, it's done now. See, it's pretty slow. There you go. It's got quite a bit of intake noise with this just having a straight pipe. The original intake had a silencer in it that actually made it quite a bit silent, quite a bit more silent than it is right now. But in some way it sounds kind of cool too, that it's like people put cherry bombs on. It's actually pretty much quiet underneath the exhaust, and you gotta bring them up around here. I don't have the charging system hooked up yet, so right now I still have like just a regular household charger in the system, so I need to. It doesn't use a whole lot of electricity, and the battery lasts long for just driving 20 miles here and there. There's the shop. Well, I don't see that intake silencer anymore. It's a big. It basically looked like the inside of a muffler, So anyway, that's about it. So next steps are to hook up the alternator. You can see that's got nothing connected to it yet. And do the steering stabilizer, and maybe at some point I'll go in and put a bigger engine in. But for now, I'll just drive it like this. Very good. Come up with a better mirror too. So, power steering. Now I'll go for a little bit of a drive here. Oh yeah, windshield wipers. That's the other thing that it needs. The windshield wipers. This one's in pretty sad shape. I already bought another one. You can just buy these like generic, like hot rod windshield wipers. Here we go. Switching hands here. It's got pretty tall gears. This is just like first gear idling. I'm already doing about 5 miles an hour. I'm just going to drive this over to the other outside shop building so I can work on my other car for a little bit. There we go. Well, at least I've proved that it can move under its own power. So I'll do another update, another 6 months or so when I have something new.